Morning, guys. I am the Nonlinear Recovery Life of Jessica. I'm Jessica, and welcome to my channel. So I just got up a little bit ago, and I've had this video on my heart for a while, basically since this month started, but I just hadn't brought myself to do it because I kind of thought it would be a little bit harder for me, even though I've already shared my mental health story on my channel. This was a little bit more challenging, I guess, to kind of do it. But I'm going to share with you two things today. One is May being Mental Health Awareness Month, and two being a book that I just finished that kind of goes along with everything I want to talk about. So my shirt I have on today it says Survivor. My hair's gotten really long because of all this stuff, but it says Survivor, and the I is replaced with a semicolon. And I'll go more into that when I talk about my book, but this shirt was actually gifted to me through the Facebook Blessings group that I'm a part of, where people buy off your Amazon wish list. So I found this shirt and I really liked it, and it was given to me as a gift, so I really appreciate that. But first I want to talk about May being Mental Health Awareness Month. I always kind of forget, which is bad, but I always kind of forget that May is Mental Health Awareness Month until it pops up again and I'm like, oh, I love this month. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think it's important to emphasize that it's mental illness. It's not a disorder. It's not, well, it is a disorder, but it's not a weakness. And I think that's important because a lot of us that have mental illnesses and disorders and deal with it see ourselves as weak. I know I do. I see myself as weak because I can't handle it, or because I have to take medicine to handle it. And I think that it's important for all of us to remember that it's an illness. It's the same as going to the doctor and being diagnosed as diabetic. It's the same as going to the doctor and being diagnosed with cancer. I think the problem is, though, that society tends to see a mental illness as a negative. They see it as they don't want to talk about it. It's taboo. We don't mention it, which it has gotten better over the years. I will say that speaking about mental illness is not as much of a taboo as it was, but for some people it still is. I know that, if someone gets diagnosed with cancer, you're suddenly covered with prayers and good thoughts and people wanting to do stuff for your family, bringing food, all these different things. They're buying stuff for you. They're giving you money. They're trying to support you. But when someone has a mental illness, like when someone, sorry, my table is really rocky. When someone is diagnosed with bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder or depression or anxiety or schizophrenia, any of those, especially like schizophrenia, bipolar, borderline personality, all those, it seems like automatically people don't want to talk about it because you're seen as crazy. And for those of you that have any of those disorders I just listed, please know that you're not crazy. I don't believe you're crazy. I know that things can happen in your brain. Your brain can be broken. No matter that the rest of your body is fine, your brain can be broken. It's an organ just like everything else. It can break down and it cannot work properly. So that is the big thing that I want you to remember right now before I go any further, is that if you have something, a mental illness or a mental disorder, you are not crazy and you are not weak. Your brain is an organ just like anything else, and it breaks down. Same way with people having to have heart surgery. The organ breaks down, they fix it. We just have to fix our brain in a different way. So anyway, it's kind of like it's seen as they're crazy. We don't want to talk about it. We kind of just want to put them into treatment, get them into a inpatient facility, whatever it is, and just put them in there, and we don't really talk about it. And people won't even ask. They won't even ask the person, you know, how are they doing? Because it's automatically seen as, they're in the crazy house. We don't want to talk about it. And I'm using that term a lot, but know that that's not what I call it. Like, I'm using it as in a facetious way. Going like, you know, like, that's what people say. I don't agree with it. I think it's rude. You wouldn't call a dialysis clinic the sick house. I mean, you wouldn't, why would you call a mental health facility that's helping someone a crazy house? But anyway, getting off on a tangent. So to kind of help put things in perspective, I found some statistics, and before somebody comes at me wanting to know where I got my statistics, okay, a lot of these I've heard for a long time, given that I have dealt with depression. I've looked things up. The majority of these came from the CDC website. If they didn't, they were at least closely related to what I'd read on CDC. So don't come at me telling me that these are wrong, okay? CDC. So I did find a couple of statistics that I thought stood out to me a lot. And if you follow me on Instagram, in my bio, I have put 1 in 5 with a green heart. Green is the mental health awareness color. Suicide prevention or suicide, I think suicide prevention is a different one. I believe it's pink and blue. I'm not sure, but I know that mental health awareness is green. So if you've seen that, that comes from one of these statistics. So one that I found was that half of all adults, or about half of all adults, 46.4%, will experience mental illness in their life. That basically boils down to about 1 in 5. So including yourself, I want you to think of 4 other people and realize that 1 in those 5 people, maybe even yourself, will have a mental illness in their life. That's just how common it is. So first off, we need to stop thinking that it's uncommon. There's a lot more people that suffer with mental illnesses than you may realize. And that's okay. Some people don't want to talk about it. That's fine. That's fine. I'm not saying you have to come on YouTube or you're not having to get on Facebook, but just know that it's more common than a lot of people realize. So 1 in 5. Just keep that in mind. Out of those 1 in 5, only 41% of the people with a mental illness will receive professional help. And I think that boils back to the taboo part of it. You know, it took me years to be able to finally admit that I needed to go to the doctor. And I went to the doctor, and it has helped. I still have bad days. It's not going to fix it all. Like, I mean, I'll just be honest with you. It's not going to make it all go away. But it is going to give you the ability to live your life in the best way possible. You know, I've had people ask me if I've seen a therapist. I have not. I haven't seen a psychologist. I haven't seen a therapist. I haven't seen a psychiatrist. I have a hard time talking about it. This is my way of dealing with that, of overcoming this fear of talking about it. I'm much better at it now than I was 5 years ago. But I think that only that 41%, so it's not like out of the 1 in 5, every single one of those people is going to get professional help. No. Only 41% of those 1 in 5 are going to get professional help. And that's good, but it's still low. Like, yeah, you could say, well, it's almost half. Yeah, but what about the other half that aren't getting the help they need? That falls into my next statistic, which is for just 40 seconds. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to sit here starting right now. So that's 40 seconds. In those 40 seconds, someone just died from suicide. and I found an article that said, and that's in the world. That's not in the United States. That's over the entire world. So in every 40 seconds, a suicide occurs. And there was an article I did find. I didn't read the whole thing because I was trying to like just find some quick statistics. But it said that within this year, it was predicted that that would go up to every 20 seconds somewhere in the world. Someone commits suicide. So I thought that was just eerie. And even sitting here for that 40 seconds, it was kind of hard. And I don't know how you guys felt, but I felt eerie doing it. But within this year, they say it may go up to every 20 seconds. So that's obviously a problem. Within the United States, it's every 12 minutes. So I'm at about the 10-minute, almost 11-minute mark. So probably by the time I finish this video, someone in the United States will have committed suicide. That's the statistic of it. The good part of all that is, well, before I get to that, because that'll lead to my next thing, but let me find some of those. So I started looking up statistics of like elementary school age kids because I was curious, because that's where I teach. That's the level I teach. So I wanted to know exactly how many, or like what percentage of kids would be diagnosed with anxiety and depression. So I didn't look into any more disorders, but I did look into those because that's what I suffer from. So 7.1% of kids ages 3 to 17, have diagnosed anxiety. And that has increased over the years. And then 3.2% of kids aged 3 to 17 have diagnosed depression. And that just, like, I knew that it was kind of appearing more in kids, but actually hearing the, like, percentages of it was, like, wild. Because, like, I see anxiety in kids already. And this has only been my second year. I just finished my second year. But I see the anxiety in kids. I see when, the upset stomachs. I see, and of course it presents itself in different ways. It may not be a panic attack like, we would have if you have it. But I see the upset stomachs. I see the complaining of headaches. I see the almost in tears when I hand them a test, like, and having to stand near me to take a test, be in the floor next to me to take a test. And I think that comes from, and this is a whole nother soapbox, but I think that comes from the emphasis on testing that has happened so much in the world, especially in education with these young kids. But that's a whole nother video, and I'm not going to get into that topic because I could talk for days. By the way, it's almost 13 minutes, so that means someone has committed suicide in the U.S. But with all of that, 250,000 people become suicide survivors every year. So that's good. Now that could be they have thought about it, they didn't go through with it, or they have thought about it, they tried it, and they failed. Which, it sounds bad to say that they failed, but it's good because it means that they're still here. So that leads me into my shirt. My shirt says survivor, as I've said, with a semicolon for the I. And this falls along with the Project Semicolon movement that was started. So a semicolon is used in literature and writing when a sentence could end and a thought could end, but then it doesn't. It continues on. So Project Semicolon was a project that was started in 2013 by a girl named, and I'm looking to see if I can, Amy. So Amy started asking people, because she had suffered with mental illness, started asking people for their stories. And it developed, and it's still a big thing. You can look it up. Like, there's still a website. It's still a big thing. But it's based on the whole idea of a semicolon is a pause, basically. It's a pause in a thought, but it's not the end of a thought. It's not a period. It doesn't end. So I finished this book that was actually, this was gifted to me too through the Facebook group. This was actually gifted to me by Caitlin. So Caitlin, thank you. I finally finished it. It's called Project Semicolon, Your Story Isn't Over. And it says, essays and photos from the suicide awareness organization that has helped millions. So I've had this book on my Amazon wish list for a while. Because I kind of went back and forth about getting it because I wasn't sure I was mentally in the place to read it. And I had a friend, James, had read it and told me that he wanted me to read it, but he wanted me to be careful because it could trigger me. And I really appreciate having friends like that tell you these things up front. But I felt like I was mentally in a good place despite all this COVID stuff going on, and despite being out of school and being emotional. I felt like mentally, for this part, I was in a good place. I think over the past 6 months, I've been in a good place. Now, yes, being out of school and being away from my kids, not being able to teach, that has been hard. But in that time span, I haven't had a suicidal thought. So I wear a survivor shirt, not because I attempted suicide. I wear a survivor shirt because I'm a survivor of suicidal thoughts. Now, some people may have a problem with that, and that's fine. I have not tried to commit suicide, but I had a lot of times where I would contemplate it. I had that suicidal ideation. I would think of ways I could do it. I would sit in class and basically plan it out to the point of where it would happen, but I would never get to that point of doing it. I could never get over that hump of, I guess, being embarrassed if I did it, or getting over the hump of caring that my family would find me, because I knew that it would be my family that would find me. So I never attempted it, which is good, but I did have those thoughts, and it was dark. It's a very dark place. But I have not had any of those thoughts in a long time. Thank God for medication. That helps. Like, 'cause I'm telling you, it's done wonders for me. So, as I said, Project Semicolon, the whole book is about people who have suffered with different mental illnesses. Some of them are as simple, if you can say simple, as depression. Some of them are as complex as having multiple ones on top of each other. I actually went through, and as I was reading it, I would like underline things that stuck out to me. Or I would like circle things, or just different things that I thought were useful. And I like this because it's not fiction. This is real people telling their real story, talking about real things that had happened to them and real feelings that they had. I don't care for fiction novels that use the topic of suicide unless they use it in a delicate way. Same with TV shows. I watched 13 Reasons Why. I should not have. I did not watch the second season. I don't plan on it. I was very disappointed in how that show portrayed suicide. I actually had the book 13 Reasons Why before the Netflix show ever came out, and I probably won't read it. Because the final episode, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, skip through until I'm done. Like, I'll hold the book back up when I'm done, so I'll put the book down. So spoiler alert. Most of you have probably seen or at least heard, but the end of the first season brings along the girl, and I can't remember her name right now. You basically watch her go through the act of committing suicide in her bathtub. And I felt like I understand why Hollywood's doing it and why, Netflix and TV shows and stuff are doing it, but that is not a good portrayal of suicide. Because the entire TV show was based on the premise that she was basically getting back at these people who had caused her to commit that. And I just have a problem with that, because suicide is not a way to get back at people that are mean to you. I just feel like they just missed the boat, and yeah, and it idolized it. And I'm going to tell you that suicide is not something to be idolized. It is something that is serious. It is something that is scary. And it's not something to joke about. Like, I will call somebody out in a hot minute, like, if I see them making fun of a mental illness or suicide, because I can promise you it's not going to be a joke to the people it's affecting. And, like, I'm not trying to, like, fuss at you if you have suicidal thoughts. I'm not trying to, like, you know, like, be like, no, you can do it. But it's, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Suicide is going to affect everyone. And I'm not going to be this person and be like, well, it doesn't make the pain go away. It makes it go to somebody else. Okay, yeah, okay, sure. But to someone who is suicidal, that means nothing to them. I mean, I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, but saying that they shouldn't feel that way, saying that they have so much to live for, blah, 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 it does nothing when you're in that mindset. Okay? So I'm coming from that mindset, and I understand that saying that, well, you have a family that loves you, you have friends that care about you, have, like, good things going for you. Yeah, I know that. The rationale part of your brain is going to tell you these things. The dark depression part of your brain that is broken because it's an illness is not going to care. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is that when you sit here and say that the pain gets passed over to someone else, that's not helping anything. I'm just going to be honest. I know you're trying to help, but there are other ways to help. Anyway, so spoiler alert over. Back to the book. So, I really enjoyed the book. Like, I thought it was very interesting to see how people were affected by different things, how they got help. And there were some in there that were people that had committed suicide. It was their family or their friends that were talking about it. But I really did enjoy it. I think it's really good. I definitely can see why you need to be in a good place mentally before you read it. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And I also have always loved this project since I came across it, or this movement, or organization, I guess would be the better word for it. But this has inspired me even more to get my first tattoo when all this mess is gone and over. I want a semicolon on my right wrist. And I'm getting it on my right wrist because I think it can be a conversation. It can be an open door. Because when you go to shake somebody's hand, you stick out your right hand most of the time. So you stick out your right hand, and if you have a semicolon there, that's going to, bring people to think about it and ask you about it. Because a lot of people don't know it, and that's fine. That's why it's an open door to give you that opportunity to ask. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in kind of how people's minds are working, and to see, because a lot of these people had very traumatic things happen to them that caused it. Now, I will tell you that's not always the case. There's not always going to be a traumatic experience. Sometimes there is, sometimes there's not. Looking back, I had no reason at all to be depressed. I did not have an abusive household. I did not have a traumatic experience. I had a great family. I have great parents. I have great friends. So of course, I got picked on because I was bigger. But I wasn't bullied to the effect of some of these people that I saw in here. But, I didn't have a reason to be depressed or anxious. But sometimes that happens. You don't have to have a reason. You just may be affected. And a lot of times it is genetic. Even if, you may not realize it, it may still be genetic. And sometimes it doesn't show up in people as much, as you may think. But, so that has inspired my first tattoo. There's also another movement that I always kind of liked, and it was more for self-mutilation, self-harm. It's called the Butterfly Project, or the Butterfly, I think it's the Butterfly Project. I'm not sure how active it is. I think it's a branch of To Write Love on Our Arms, but I'm not sure. I have to look. I didn't look into it, but it's been a while since I've heard anybody talk about it. But I heard about it a lot when I was in high school and right at the start of college. Basically, it was the idea of tattooing or drawing a butterfly on your arm or your wrist anytime you felt like self-harming yourself, and your job was to keep that butterfly alive as long as until it washed off. So it may even escalate to the point where you had multiple butterflies down your arm because of all the thoughts you were having or the want to self-harm. But as long as the butterfly was there, if you self-harmed, you've hurt the butterfly. So I like that movement. I didn't really suffer from self-harm as much. Mine was more the suicidal thoughts. I never tried to cut myself or hurt myself in any way or mutilate myself, but I know some people do. So that may be something that you want to look into if you have those thoughts as well. So my takeaway from this whole thing, and I know this is a long video, so I do apologize. I knew it was going to be a long video, but I had to get some stuff out. Is that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Be kind to each other every day, but especially in this time we're living in where things are very unsure. There's a lot of anxieties flaring up because of everything just being so unsure about what's going to happen. This virus floating around, it's causing a lot of people to feel, I think, some emotions that maybe they haven't felt. Or it may even be causing people to relapse into some past habits. And that happens. It's okay. There was one, I just lost it. Anyway, if you do suffer from mental illness of any kind, I hope that you're getting the help you need. And if you're not, I hope that eventually you will. Just know that there are people that are out there to help you. There are people out there that are not going to make fun of you. And if you are around people that make fun of you or make light of it, please get away from them. And I understand that may be hard if it's your family, but I promise you, just because they're family doesn't mean you have to be around them. Because there's a bunch of my family that I won't be around. I also think that it's important that we're all here for each other right now. And that maybe if you haven't heard from some of your friends in a while, reach out to them, check on them. Because just hearing from someone and knowing that they care could really make a difference in their life. And it could really change the way their mind is working at that moment. Just be kind, guys. Just be kind, because being there for someone who is going through a hard time is so important. Like, you would not believe the effect of a text message checking on you has, or even just a phone call, just anything. Tagging somebody in a meme on Facebook means that you were thinking of them. I mean, it's just, it's crazy that in that mindset, the little things that can come through. If you know someone who deals with mental illness, especially check on them during this time if you haven't already. And don't force someone if you think someone's going through something or you think they may have a mental illness that's maybe not diagnosed. Don't force them to talk about it. Just let them know that you are a safe place. You're a safe person to talk to. That, you know, and if you want to hand them some resources, that's fine. But don't do it to the point of trying to push them to do something, because I promise you, like, if they're not ready to do so, I just broke my pencil. I always hate when that thing breaks off. Anyway, sorry. I couldn't sit still. But you could push them away, and that's not what they need. They already feel like the world's caving in on them, and they already feel like everything's darkness anyway, so the last thing they would need is to lose somebody who generally does care about them and means well, but they see it as trying to push them to do something. So, yeah. Just be aware. We don't know what people are fighting. Mental illness is one of those things where it's an unseen killer. You know, people are really good about hiding things. People are really good about smiling when maybe they don't feel like it. So just be aware. Watch what you say. Watch the things that you may share. Watch the things that you do that could affect people in a different way. And also understand that people that have anxiety, sometimes our rationale is not correct. It kind of freaks us out a little bit. And it kind of wigs out a little. So sometimes, like, when you say something you don't mean in a certain way, it could hit them in a different way. So don't jeopardize someone if they get upset about something. You know, just apologize. Tell them that you didn't mean it in the way that it was taken, that you had no idea it was be taken that way. And then give them some time. They'll come around. I've got mad at Mark over, not even mad, just upset about just dumb things now when I look back on it. But at the time, my mind was just not in a good place, and it just took it a different way. So just be kind, be aware. And if you need some help or you need someone to talk to, please come talk to me. I'll help you as much as I can. I don't care where you're from, what you're doing. I'll figure out a way to help you. I'll try to put some links down in the description about some resources, because I know there's like suicide hotlines. There's some, I'll put like some symptom things, because I'm by no means a doctor, but just seeing like maybe the actual definition of things and the symptoms that can come with it could even help maybe you spot things. It'll make you be aware of what you need to see, or be aware of what to look for with some people. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Sorry this is a much longer video than I planned, but I wanted to get it all out there and kind of share a little bit more of my story, even though the majority of it I have shared, but and I wanted to share about that book that I'd read. So I hope you guys are doing okay. It's raining today. It's kind of gross, but try to make the best of it. Do something fun today. Find something enjoyable to do, even if you can't go outside. But whatever it is, I hope that you enjoy your day. So have a great day. Be kind to each other. Find somebody to help today. Do something good for somebody. Check on people. Please check on people. Check on people you haven't heard from in a few days, just to make sure they're okay. Call your family. Something. Okay? All right. I think that's it. Bye, guys. Love you.